Let me paint a picture for you. It's Sunday evening. You're at your kitchen table. The screen of your laptop is glowing, casting a pale light on your tired face. Your bank statement is open in one tab, a spreadsheet in another. You just canceled a streaming service you actually enjoyed, that one show you'd unwind to save $14 at $9 a month. You spent 45 minutes earlier scrolling through 3 different grocery apps, comparing prices ounce by ounce, and you feel a little spark of victory because you found the chicken breasts for $3.47 less. You tell yourself you're being responsible. You're being an adult. You move that theoretical $18.46 into a savings column on your spreadsheet, and you maybe even transfer it to an account earning less than 1% interest. You feel a tightness in your chest, a constriction, but you also feel virtuous. You've done your financial duty. But what if I told you this entire ritual, this monthly ceremony of cutting and scrimping, isn't moving you an inch closer to real wealth? What if I told you that the very act of obsessive granular budgeting is chemically training your brain for scarcity, locking you into a poverty mindset that's nearly impossible to escape? What if I told you the entire system is designed to keep you hyper-focused on that $3 chicken, because as long as you're looking down at your spreadsheet, you'll never look up to see the real game being played? This isn't just being frugal. This is a psychological containment field. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible scripts that run our financial lives. If you're someone who feels a deep, sinking anxiety every single time you open your banking app, or if you feel like you're running on a treadmill, cutting costs, working hard, but somehow getting absolutely nowhere, or if you've ever felt a pang of genuine guilt for buying a coffee, even when you could technically afford it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we aren't talking about how to save an extra $100 a month. We are talking about why your obsession with saving that $100 is the very mechanism preventing you from earning an extra $10,000. Talking about the cognitive tax of scarcity. Here's the thing about personal finance advice. Conventional wisdom screams that wealth is built through extreme frugality and restraint. They tell you that your financial statement is a battlefield, and victory is achieved by slashing the smallest expenses by winning a war of attrition against your own lifestyle. But that advice ignores a fundamental truth about your brain and how it works under pressure. It ignores a concept proven by decades of research. It ignores what we call cognitive bandwidth. That isn't a theory I just made up. It's a brutal, documented fact of human psychology. The seminal work was done by economists Sendhil Mullainathan and psychologist Eldar Shafir, culminating in their 2013 book, Scarcity, Why Having Too Little Means So Much. They discovered that scarcity, whether of money, time, or even food, doesn't just change your circumstances, it fundamentally captures your mind. It creates a tunneling effect. All of your mental bandwidth, your focus, your problem-solving power gets sucked into that tunnel. You become laser-focused on immediate pressing trade-offs. The $3 discount, the late fee you need to avoid, the bill due tomorrow. You become incredibly efficient at solving these tiny, acute problems, but the cost is catastrophic. You become blind to everything outside the tunnel. You can't see larger opportunities, long-term strategies, or creative solutions. Your cognitive capacity is literally depleted. In one of their most famous experiments, they posed a financial scenario to both poor and wealthy subjects. When it was simple, both groups performed equally. But when they added just a mild cognitive load, a simple, unrelated memory task, the performance of the poor subjects collapsed. Their mental bandwidth was already maxed out by the background noise of financial scarcity. The extra load broke them. The wealthy subjects, whose brains weren't pre-taxed by that scarcity, handled it fine. Another study, this one with sugarcane farmers in India, tracked the same individuals over time. Before the harvest, when they were cash poor, these farmers performed significantly worse on cognitive tests than after the harvest when they were flush. The same person with the same innate intelligence was made functionally dumber by the experience of scarcity. A more recent study, published in the Journal of Consumer Research in 2021, found that individuals primed to think about budget constraints showed reduced creativity and a lower ability to solve complex, open-ended problems, the exact skills needed for entrepreneurship, The synthesis is terrifying. Scarcity doesn't just empty your wallet, it empties your cognitive tank. And budgeting, the way most people practice it, is a voluntary immersion into that state of scarcity. It's you sitting down and forcing your brain to stare directly at its own limits. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Bobby, that's a nice story about farmers in India and some lab experiments, but how does that apply to my actual life in 2025? Well, look around you. This dynamic is everywhere. Let's take Sarah. Sarah makes $55,000 a year. Every Sunday, like clockwork, she does her financial hygiene. For 2 hours, she compares insurance quotes, switches cell phone plans, and plans meals around digital coupons. She saves $217 a month. She feels in control. She feels smart. But during those exact same 2 hours, her colleague, who isn't broke but also isn't rich, is taking a LinkedIn learning course on data visualization. Ship 6 months later. That colleague, who now has a new certification and can build automated reports that save his department time, gets a promotion adding $15,000 to his base salary. Sarah is still saving $217 a month. She didn't just miss a promotion. Her brain was tuned to the wrong frequency. It was optimized to find savings, not to spot opportunities. She saw Sunday as a time for cutting costs, not building value. Then there's the side hustler who spends 10 hours a week driving for a rideshare app to net an extra $200. Their entire mental bandwidth is consumed by the road, the ratings, the immediate cash. They don't have the cognitive space to brainstorm, build, and market a digital product that could make that $200 in an hour. They're trapped in a low bandwidth loop by the very need for immediate cash flow. Think about skipping a networking lunch to save $40, not investing in a better work laptop, saying no to a conference because of the ticket cost. Behavior, this is what we call asterisk, the frugality fog. Asterisk, a state of mental myopia where you can see pennies with crystal clarity but are completely blind to the dollar bills, and the opportunities lying just beyond your narrowed field of vision. Let's perform a brutal audit of the frugality fog. Let's call this person Alex. Alex is 30-7 and he makes $72,000 a year. On paper, that's his starting number. Behavior, $72,000. But that's not his real number. That's just the gross, easy figure everyone sees. First, there's the visible cost of budgeting itself. Alex spends 5 hours a month on active, granular budgeting and expense tracking. That's time. 5 hours a month times 12 months is 60 hours a year. Alex's hourly rate, based on his salary, is about $34.62. So 60 hours times $34.62 equals $2,077.20. That's the dollar value of the time he spends just managing his scarcity. So our running total is now $69,922.80. But that's the easy math. We all know time is money. Now we have to subtract the hidden category, opportunity cost. Those 60 hours weren't free hours. They were 60 hours of his most valuable focused attention. What if he spent just 30 of those hours? That's 2.5 hours a month on deliberate skill building for a promotion. What if he spent 10 hours building a simple digital asset? Let's be extremely conservative. Let's say that skill building leads to just a 5% raise within a year. By 5% of $72,000 is $3,600. That's the opportunity cost. The total is now $66,322.80. Behavior by DBOD. But we're not done. Then there's the creativity and risk tax. The frugality fog makes you pathologically risk-averse. You're trained to see potential loss, not potential gain. So you don't invest in that course. You don't start that small project. You don't negotiate your salary aggressively because you're just happy to have the job. This is the cost of missed upside. A conservative estimate for one forgone opportunity or one unnegotiated raise, let's call it $4,000. With your new total, $62,322.80. And it gets worse. Then there's the darkest category, the psychological tax, a behavior of the constant stress of scrimping, the decision fatigue from making 50 tiny financial choices a day, the background anxiety. This isn't fluffy stuff. Chronic financial stress reduces sleep quality, impairs immune function, and craters cognitive performance. It leads to bad decisions later, like impulse buys, precisely because your willpower is depleted. Studies quantify this drag on productivity and health at thousands per year. Let's be brutally conservative and call it just $1,500. So let's add it up. We started with 72,000, we subtracted 2,077 for time, 3,600 for opportunity cost, 4,000 for the risk tax, and 1,500 for the psychological tax. That's a total cognitive tax of $11,177. $72,000 minus that tax leaves an effective cognitive income of $60,800 and $22,080. That's not a typo. By being a good budgeter, Alex has effectively taxed himself over $11,000. His $72,000 a year job pays him like a $60,000 a year job because of the mental toll of his scarcity mindset. He is working 52 days a year for free to service his own frugality fog. Think about that for a second, and we haven't even touched on the broader data. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 Survey of Household Economics, 36% of Americans don't have $400 in cash for an emergency. Yet, a survey by Personal Capital found the average American spends 5.4 hours per week managing household finances, with the vast majority of that time spent on tracking and cutting expenses, not planning for growth. A 2023 LinkedIn internal study found that employees who dedicate just 30 minutes a week to strategic, focused online learning are 32% more likely to receive a promotion or a significant raise within a year. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2021 concluded that individuals under financial stress show a 13% reduction in cognitive capacity that's equivalent to the impact of losing a full night's sleep or being legally intoxicated. Behavior. This means the population most in need of clear, strategic, long-term thinking is being systematically robbed of the cognitive power to do it by the very responsible behavior they're told to practice. Before you say, "But Bobby, I have to track my expenses, I'm broke." I hear you. I'm not saying ignore your finances. I'm saying the data shows that shifting just 20% of that financial management time from expense tracking to income strategizing has a 5x greater impact on net worth over a 5-year period. That 5.4 hours a week? That's the equivalent of a full workday every month. Imagine redirecting one of those days from cutting coupons to building a skill. This is where it gets really interesting. The frugality fog isn't an accident, it's a feature. When you obsess over saving pennies, your mental bandwidth is consumed. However, that bandwidth poverty forces you to seek immediate, low-leverage solutions. Drive for Uber, cut more coupons, take on overtime that burns you out. His actions then reinforce your identity as someone who struggles, who is always behind, which makes you even less likely to take the bold, creative, or patient steps that could actually break the cycle. It's like being in a cage where you're handed a tiny spoon and told the key to freedom is to carefully dig a hole. You become the world's most focused, efficient spoon digger while ignoring the fact that the cage door isn't even locked. And here's what really gets me. The $500 billion personal finance industry, the book publishers, the app developers, the gurus, the media, relies on your immersion in this fog. They profit on you believing the problem is your $6 coffee, not your $60,000 salary. They depend on you buying the next budgeting app, the next frugality hack book, the next course on extreme couponing. They literally budget for your continued belief that wealth is about restriction, not expansion. When you stop hyper-optimizing for savings and start strategizing for income, you become a bad customer for them. Therefore, you stop buying their scarcity products, but you become a great CFO for your own life. This industry wants you focused on the line items in your budget because that hides the true bottom line of your life's potential. They want you arguing about lattes so you never question your salary. This isn't just bad psychology or bad math. This is predatory. This is designed. That says one focused attention for the illusion of control. Now I can hear the objections already. Bobby, so you're just saying blow all my money and don't budget at all. That's irresponsible. And look, I get it. That seems like the logical extreme, but I'm not advocating for financial blindness. I'm advocating for a massive shift from micro-tracking to macro-guarding. You should know what your essentials cost. You should automate your savings, and then you should firewall that off. Your primary focus must shift to growing the total pool of resources, not microscopically managing the droplets. You might also be thinking, but I don't have the skills or the ideas to make more money, and you never will if 100% of your financial mental energy is spent on cutting, not on building. The very first skill to build is opportunity spotting, and that requires free cognitive bandwidth. Bandwidth you're currently spending on finding cheaper paper towels. The problem isn't your spending. The problem is that your entire financial identity has been built around being a saver, not an earner, a builder, or an investor. So what do you actually do with this information? How do you escape the trap? Let me give you something practical. Strategy number 1. Asterisk the automatic firewall. Asterisk, this is a one-time 90-minute setup where you automate your finances into 3 buckets. First, essentials: rent, utilities, groceries, minimum debt payments. Second, your freedom fund, savings and investments. Third, your opportunity money. Here's why it works. It externalizes discipline. It takes 100 tiny monthly decisions off your plate, freeing up colossal mental bandwidth. Behavior you budget once, and then the system runs itself. How to implement it. This weekend, calculate your average monthly essentials. Set up an automatic transfer on payday to a separate checking account just for those bills. Behavior set up a second automatic transfer of 15 to 20% of your income to your Freedom Fund investment account. Whatever is left in your main account after that is your opportunity money, guilt-free fuel for learning, networking, experimenting, and living. With his $72,000 salary, that might mean automating $3,000 for essentials and $1,000 for his Freedom Fund, leaving around $1,500 a month as opportunity money and breathing room. Behavior he just bought back 5 hours of mental bandwidth and a guilt-free path to growth. Strategy number 2, asterisk the 5% expansion sprint. This is a 90-day challenge where you dedicate your newly freed bandwidth to one single goal: increase your personal or professional value by 5%. It works because it's specific, time-bound, and focuses exclusively on growth, not shrinkage. A 5% raise on $72,000 is $3,600, far more than you'll save in a year of couponing. Of your implementation? Pick one thing, a certification your industry values, a measurable project at work that gets visibility, or building one simple digital asset like an ebook or a template pack. Then block 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week on your calendar. This is non-negotiable expansion time. You track progress not in dollars saved, but in skills gained or outputs created. Strategy number 3, asterisk the value audit. Asterisk quarterly, you review your spending not with the question, what can I cut, but with the question, what was the return on life? A $120 dinner that led to a career-changing connection has an infinite return on life. A $12 a month subscription you dread canceling but never use has a negative return. This reframes spending from a moral failing to a strategic analysis. To do it, go through 3 months of statements. For any non-essential over $50, ask, did this expand my life, my network, my joy, or my skills? If not, cancel it with prejudice and reallocate that cash to your opportunity money bucket. But the biggest shift is psychological. You have to start asking, how can I win more? Or instead of, how can I lose less? You're not a saver. You are an investor. You invest in systems with the automatic firewall. You invest in yourself with the expansion sprint. You invest in high-return experiences with the value audit. Here's what I want you to do this weekend. Block 90 minutes. For the first 60, set up your automatic firewall with your bank's online tools. It's easier than you think. For the final 30, brainstorm one single 5% expansion sprint idea. What you'll discover is the visceral feeling of mental space opening up, the first sign that the frugality fog is finally lifting. I want to leave you with one final thought. Money management isn't really about math. It's about psychology. It's not about restraining your worst impulses, but about empowering your best ones. At behavior, we thought the enemy was waste, but the real enemy is stagnation. Our grandparents lived in a world of tangible, physical scarcity. Saving a penny, literally, was the same as making a penny. But we live in a world of radical opportunity, abundance powered by leverage. Leverage of technology, of knowledge, of global networks. Hoarding digits in a low-yield bank account is using a 1950s tool for a 2025 game. The people who actually thrive financially today aren't the penny pinchers. They're the opportunity pouncers. They have clear, automated systems that protect their floor, their basic needs, which frees their mind entirely to focus on raising their ceiling. You can't scrimp your way to genuine freedom. You cannot subtract your way to abundance, but you can build, create, and expand your way there. The path to wealth isn't paved with denied joys, it's paved with chosen strategic investments in your own capacity. Your brain is your single most valuable asset. Stop letting a system designed to sell you budgeting apps and guilt tax that asset into oblivion. Redirect its power to wealth. The freedom and the options you seek are on the other side of that one mental shift. You're not broken for feeling trapped by your budget. You're human, responding exactly as the scarcity mindset predicts. This journey is unfair, and it's hard because you're fighting a lifetime of conditioning. But once you understand that wealth is grown, not saved, you can start redirecting your most precious resource, your attention, from the cost column to the growth column. If this video showed you why the treadmill you're on is pointed in the wrong direction, share this with one person who needs to hear it. Smash that like button and hit subscribe for more content that challenges how you think about money. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.